Maureen is just a great leader of this college here, and I wouldn't mind getting a few lectures. But the one thing I'm a little worried about is there's an old saying, the more you study, the more you know. The more you know, the more you forget. The more you forget, the less you know. The less you know, the less you forget. I don't forget anything, I don't know anything. So anyway, on a more serious note, it's great to be here, and I sort of piggyback a bit on Dean French. He done a lot of spade work. Life's been incredible great to me. I've been blessed with good health, a good mind. I always said, it doesn't matter how smart you are. If the stars are not aligned, it won't work. And the stars were aligned so many times what I did, and so I'm very blessed for it and thankful. And but life is really a question of fate and circumstances, to be at the right places at the right time with the right ingredients, right? And I've been able to achieve great things. I've seen just about everything. There was time where I was hungry. Not hungry because I wanted to lose weight. I was hungry. I had no money to buy food. That leaves very deep impressions, right? But anyway, just a quick, life is really an evolutionary process, right? There's evolutions constantly. So when we look back to the caveman, then when we look to the hunter and hunted, when we look then at the kings and the servants, and now we kind of have a stage where we have what I call the bosses and disgruntled employees. I think the reason I done well is I treated the employees as partners. Constantly, every day I thought, what do I have to do that employees respect me? So that allowed me to create just imagine about 180,000 jobs in 34 different countries. And when we're young, we all hustle a bit, that we make some monies, that we can live in dignity. So I could have, we have about 440 factories in 34 different countries. I could have lived in any one of those countries with dignity. I choose Canada. It's a great, great country. My conscience tells me, like, I have no agenda, I got no peer pressure, but my conscience tells me I should roll off and transmit, call it the knowledge as I have accumulated. Over the years I've been on the boards of quite a few universities, hospitals, banks, New York Stock Exchange, corporate governance, and also advisor to some prime ministers. But anyway, I'm deeply worried that Canada is going up the wrong road. I remember about 50 years ago, when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was, if you got one of those computers, you could eliminate a total office floor in an office building. Now when I look around, there's 20 times more office buildings, high-rises in every city. What do they do in there? They don't make products in there. They make regulations and financial transactions. The other thing too, when I look back 50 years ago, the Wall Street was pushing business. You got to make more profits. Unions were pushing business. We got to get higher wages. So business took the easy way out. They went to China. I don't think that's a great dilemma. Huh? When you look around now, when there's a new building going up, it's not a factory, it's a warehouse. And the factories are now getting converted into warehouses too. So we have a problem. One is that debt is climbing like crazy. The bureaucracy is climbing like crazy. And we don't make things. We import more and more, right? And export less. So basically, I sat back and thought, when I looked at my experiences and all the involvements I had, I said, gee, I gotta bring forward a program. I tried to convince a lot of other people because I yes, I have a lot of energy, I can do a lot, but it takes people to bring about changes. And it should be changed by the grassroots, right? So I came up with the 7-1 program, with the 7 principles, and nothing has to do with politics. It's purely economics. Let's say the first principle is a country shouldn't have any debt. So we have, I think it's about more than 2 trillion now, our debt. Just the interest payments alone every day is about 150 million just to service the debt. So, by the way, I don't know who's getting all those monies, but anyway, the debt's climbing like crazy. So I'm saying, look, in 20 years, we should eliminate the debt. And 20 years, it's not a chainsaw approach, it's doable. Okay, and I'll give you a quick analysis why it's doable. Secondly, the bureaucracy is climbing like crazy. I mean, it's so I'm I got a bunch of farms. And one farm I built a greenhouse. For a greenhouse, you don't need no permit, but I asked for a permit to put in front of the greenhouse a farmer market. Now I'm waiting for 3 years now and still haven't got the permit. I mean, it's something, it's beyond thing, yeah. But anyway, so the principle number 2 is we should reduce the bureaucracy. And again, in a civilized country, every person's got a right to find a job, whatever the openings are. So I'm not saying we should fire the bureaucrats. I'm saying the principle number 2 is we should have a hiring freeze on bureaucrats till we come down to a reasonable number, right? Number 3 is, when you look, from time to time I look in the DAX code book. It's a book that thick with thousands and thousands of convoluted paragraphs, and that nobody, so we need a DAX system, black and white, with no privileges, no loopholes. Right now, the playing fields, the economic playing fields are not level. They're slanted towards privileged organizations or businesses, right? So, so the DAX thing we could easily, like I said, it should be black and white. And again, we have answers how that would be. It would be too cumbersome to get into it here. The number 4 principle would be, perhaps that's the most important one. We got to do everything we can do that small business can survive and grow and take off the red tape, the 4-week red tape. 2 rules would apply to small business. You want to have workplace safety. You cannot be neglectful of that. So rule 1 will be workplace safety, and you cannot dump poison chemicals in your backyard. But I do need, and I hope we get together sort of experienced business people which created a lot of jobs and create, what should be how should the bureaucracy, how should they operate, and how many should we have, right? So there's a lot of things we can do to eliminate the red tape, okay? And again, there is a program to do that. And so small business, basically I define small business below 300 people. And they would, first of all, let's take all the red tape off. Of course, that we know there is, we need building engineers to verify the snow load and the wind load, etc. Of course, we need that, but there's so many other things now where the bureaucracy. It's, for instance, I just built a building reasonable. The floor is concrete. Then I have a second story. The second floor is concrete, and it's held up by a steel deck and steel post. So we had to do special coating on the steel post that they wouldn't catch fire. I mean, again, it was an enormous cost, an enormous. But I mean, we go into things now which so I think hopefully we can put some business people which created a lot of jobs and to get a code how much red tape we could eliminate, or what's really is essential for the safety of workers and people, right? So so small business wouldn't pay any business tax. They would pay the wage taxes, right? Because small businesses are, small business when they start something, they only take out so much money is what they need to live for him and their families if he's got family. So there will be no business tax. Yes, there's a wage tax. But if we take the red tape off, and no business, and small business doesn't, the taxes are really not that big, because as a businessman rather hires another person, right, or buys a machine to grow. So, but to get the tax people out of the small, they have no business to be there, right? Because governments make their businesses via the wage taxes, right? So if small businessmen hire somebody, the workers pay taxes. So that would be very helpful if we would do that, the red tape off, they pay no tax. This country would explode, would revitalize itself, and the way things I think it would be enormous. There's about 1 million small businesses. If they create one job, there'd be 1 million jobs. If they do 2 or 3, so we can do all sorts of things. So, but when business grow beyond 300, then they would have to share the profits with the workers. So the present business are excluded from that. It's only when small business grow, they grow larger for the simple reason when they're larger, you don't know the people personally anymore, right? And you might have maybe lawyers or institutions running it, but anyway, usually when things are not right, then people have no, management has no affinity for people, right? So large business would pay anywhere between 10 and 20% they would share with their employees. Let me just tell you a quick story why we could pay back the debt. When I put in a corporate constitution at Magna in the mid-80s, the constitution said, besides the wages, workers get 10% of the profits. The first year the profits were 10%. The second year 100%. The third year 200%. When you have a tangible program where the employees can see they get a portion of the profits, you unleash a force of untold proportions, because the workers on the front line, they know what they do, and if they know to get a piece of the action, it's incredible what we can do. So and that leads me to I'm proposing we should do an economic charter of rights in Canada. I would like to see that Canada be the first country in the world with an economic charter of rights. What's the basic principle, the basic rationale? We all agree, or business agrees, most business people, politicians agree, and most people agree if the economy doesn't work, nothing else will work. You cannot feed the hungry, you cannot look after the most fragile people, the elderly, the sick, and the handicapped. But the funny thing is, we don't talk what drives the economy. The economy is driven by 3 forces: smart managers, hardworking employees, and investors. All 3 have a right to the outcome, which is profits. The message I want to get loud and clear across is, workers have a moral right some of the profits they help to generate. So that's the foundation actually for an economic charter of rights, right? And naturally, where you have rights, especially governments would have to, there's also commitments to government. They gotta stay within the budget. There's no way a country should borrow, okay? So we could pay back the debt. There's about over $2 trillion now. So if we get the workers involved, we can pay back the debt. So that leads me now, I spoke, the principle 5 was to share the profits with the workers. Thereby we gotta be more productive. Everybody makes more monies. We could eliminate poverty. Number 6 of the thing would be, this number 6 principle would be, high school should stop at grade 10, and then kids should participate in trades. That means if we would do that for the kids, it gives them more knowledge, you know. And schools are there to bring knowledge to kids, right? So we, I think it's just totally wrong, right? That we, like everybody, like you want to be an accountant, you want to be a lawyer, and everything. We got to get it cool that we have trades, right? And the trade people in Magers make the most money. So we had some which made 10 million, 15 million a year, right? When we had a good manager, if you say if he wants to have more pay, that's an open up and replace yourself and open up a new factory. You get a cut from the old factory, a cut from the new. So we had managers which replaced themselves 10 or 20 times, and they made, 15 million, 20 million, and so they made it because they made the profits, right? So we gotta get the bit that it's cool to do other things, and then let the kids decide. Then they still can go to university if they want to, but maybe they want to stay in trades because we can't make things anymore. Tradespeople are hard to find, and I think it would be very helpful for young people. They would accumulate extra knowledge like that way. And number 7 is a very important principle. No Canadian kid should go to school hungry. That means we would have to serve breakfast. No Canadian kid should leave the school hungry. That means we got to serve lunches, and by law, the food has to be organic, because we creating a lot of sick kids. I decided about 12 years ago that I will get out of the big car business, and I got into the agriculture. The more I got into it, the more I could see this chemical jungle. In industrial farms, you see no more eagles fly. Why? There's no more rabbits there. There's no more pheasants. The fungicide and pesticides we spray, we kill everything. Gets in the air, we breathe the air. Gets in the water, we drink the water. Gets in the soil, and we eat the food. So when you look now, the statistics are there. Practically all the kids have allergies, and the stage 2 diabetics is on the rise, and autism too. Yes, well-to-do families, they're smart that they try to get organic foods for their kids. But we want to have a Canada where every kid's got a chance to grow healthy and happy. So to get organic food is very important, but that brings me again to a very critical point. Family farms are practically on welfare. Kids of family farmers say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be farming, I don't want to be on welfare. So we gotta get, family farms were always the backbone of the country, including small businesses. A country which could feed its people never had a problem. So I think it's very crucial that we, they don't get gobbled up by industrial farms, right? As I said earlier, on industrial farms, you see no more eagles fly. So that's a very serious thing. But the most important thing, the wealth, every kid in Canada should have a chance to grow up healthy and happy, Because if he haven't got a chance to grow up healthy, there's no way he'd be happy. It would have be a learning thing, and anybody saying we cannot afford that, that'd be a very poor statement, because the medical costs are in the billions, huh? Okay? So anyway, I hope I've provoked your mind a bit, and I hope you participate. Canada will be the first country in the world with an economic charter of rights, and Canada should be a role model for the whole world, right? And so if time permits, I got time, I'd be very happy to answer any question you might have. Thank you. I should congratulate him, and I've never seen so the efficiency of the award ceremony. You know, that's a sign of good thinking. You gotta be efficient.
Thanks, Frank. It means a lot. Questions? You got an opportunity to ask any question you want. This is the fun part. We're right on. Speaking of that, we're right on schedule, and there are some amazing dessert. Although Cortha Dairy, next time you get an award, you got to bring that ice cream. When Laurie Scott would bring your MPP would bring Cortha Dairy into the cabinet meetings. It was a race between Doug Ford and I to get to that ice cream, and I can tell you, he beat me more times than I beat him. So. But all kidding aside,
he's got the proof.
He does, and I do too. So poor guy's not here to defend himself. And I told you we're nonpartisan. I'm going after my own friend. But we all have friends
in a nice way.
In a nice way, and Frank and I have a lot of fun. As you can see, we don't take ourselves too seriously. But any questions you have at all? It's any questions about one of the questions you might want to ask. I'm going to ask Frank this question while this next one gets ready. Frank, could you start Magna today? Before we go to the first question, could you start a Magna today? And if you could, why? And if you couldn't, why not?
No way. I mean, this is a 50 years ago, or 60 or 40 years ago, the municipalities, likely, if you wanted to build a building, yet the permit within 2 weeks or what, they will be helpful. If you change this or that, or is that double check by engineers? Wait, now, if you want to move a toilet, right, and it would take you a few months before you get the permit to do that. So it's impossible to, right? And the most important thing is jobs, right? Okay, so it's jobs, it's the economy, and the economy is driven, like I said earlier, by three forces: smart managers, hardworking employees, and investment. So it's the economy. But if the economy is stifled by the bureaucracy, so we do need what I would call in Canada, we should have a number of groups which experienced business people, responsible business people, say we could eliminate this, and this, and come down to a reasonable answer. There was a survey done just recently, where it shows the countries with the highest bureaucracy, right? Canada was quite up, right? Canada had 100 bureaucracy per 1,000 people. The States had 70 bureaucrats per 1,000 people, and Japan was one of the lowest with 40 bureaucrats per 1,000 people. So again, though we're a civilized country, it's not really the system is at fault. We got to take a look at the system. Politics doesn't work anymore. To me, maybe the foremost politician or the greatest statesman in recent history is Winston Churchill, right? And Winston Churchill always say in his later years before he died, I said, damn, politics doesn't work. We need a chamber of citizens. Our chamber would be small business. If small business does well, the whole country would do well. Because why? They all play on the same level playing field. If you take the chains off them, small business was the backbone, right, in all the years, right? When I created Magna, I created 440 small businesses. They were small businesses, right? You couldn't fire manage if you made a little bit of profit and make a profit, a little bit of profit and state when you didn't break the law. We couldn't fire management. So we gave them the chance to run under the corporate umbrella, stay outside, right? But so they run their own show, right? We only had a few rules which were common, but so I created 440 factories, small factories with about 200 people per plant, right? So, but we gotta get back to right? And in a civilized way. We don't have to use a chainsaw.
I think we've got a question from Terry.
Thanks. I mean, first of all, Frank, thank you so much for coming to Peterborough and sharing your wisdom with us. Second of all, when I look around this room, I think you're sort of preaching to the choir with your message. But of course, one of the challenges that we have in a democratic society is we've sort of seemed to have evolved to where there's a lot of people that are receiving benefits that work for the government and so on. What would you say your top 3 ideas would be to sort of moving forward with what you're proposing and to actually get something to happen sooner than later? Because as a citizen, I'm very concerned about the direction as you are that we're taking.
Yes, there are solutions, right? And the solutions are, first of all, it's got to be grassroots. People got to believe in it, that it would be better for all Canadians. The solutions would be there's 338 political ridings where members of parliament, the federal parliament, elected, right? I'd like to see a small office section in those ridings with members. And those certain principles would to be part of the constitutions. It's pure economics, nothing to do with politics, right? But if a country is not on a solid economic foundation, it can't work, right? So you wouldn't be elected because politics, it doesn't work, right? Because nobody will come forward with a new idea, because whoever comes forward with a new idea is be defeated because you can criticize it. I've been in parliament. I know when I run in Austria for a parliament, I told the people I will only be in for a short period of time. So I was in there. I gave an acceptance speech, the first day, and a month later I gave a farewell speech. And I said, I got to know everything I wanted to know. It just doesn't work unless we bring some changes. It's the system. And I know most of the politicians, like, Brian Mulroney was on our board. Nice people, but they're trapped in the system where you can't move. And the problem is we have maybe half the people take out of the system and not put, so politicians, they cater to those people, right? So small business could be the chamber of citizens, right? We could balance things out. So I think it's very, we have staff here, we have Anthony, can you stand up? He's the National Director of the Economic Charter of Rights, right? We would like to see that we have chapters out here with people which believe in those principles. Okay, I left it only 7 short principles, right? So it's nothing to do with politics, it's pure economics. Because when you get too many on you never would find consensus. So it's something, like I said, I have no agenda. I have a certain age, right? But this country's been great to me. And my conscience tells me, like, I want to give that back, and call it the wisdom, it's no pure luck when you create 180,000 jobs in so many different, right? We put many innovations, but basically it's been how we treat people, okay? So I hope that you people get involved and show them and spread the thing. That's what we got to do to save this great country. Because with all the debt, it's not feasible. What do we leave our kids behind? It's like, if you have a gigantic mortgage, right, for your kids, they know they would lose the house, or the property. So I think it's very important that it's got to be grassroots, right? And I think we left it as there's no.
We have another question, I think, Frank. And
Okay.
before we get to the question, Frank and Anthony, it's economiccharter.ca, is that right? Economiccharter.ca. It's really, really easy to remember. Even a lacrosse player like me can remember that. Economiccharter.ca if you'd like to find more about the 7 points.
Keystone play a great role in it, right?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
they keep the stones moving, right? It's got to be rolling.
That's right. We'll keep it moving with the next question here. Go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So Frank, my name is Rhonda Barnett. My husband Don received one of the awards today. We have a family company here in Peterborough. I've had a great career in manufacturing. I served as the first female chair of the board of Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters. So your message rang loud and clear for me today. I now hold a job in the country where I have an investment from what used to be Industry Canada of $250 million to invest in skills in Canada to make sure that companies like ours have the skills, the skilled labor force that they need to grow and compete. So it was really interesting to hear your story at Magna and how you really leveraged the people and invested in the people to develop your workforce. And we're celebrating the job creation in our community, and you've been going across the country to celebrate this. How can we get more companies to be part of that solution? I think of the German model that you spoke of where industry needs to play a leading role. We can't rely on the Fleming colleges of the world to do everything. Industry has to be at the table as well. And how can we get more companies to be at the table and understand that they're part of the solution to make sure that we have the skilled labor force to really drive innovation and drive growth for the industry sectors in Canada?
I should give one more example. So I arrived in Toronto with about $200. I didn't know anybody. I found a job in a very small company. I'm a dual die maker by trade. And after a few months, the owner of the company, there were about 10 people, 10 workers. He said, "Frank, you're doing a great job. I want you to be a partner of mine." He was a nice guy, but he never wrote it down. And I said, "There's really nothing to run the thing." So I looked in the papers. I found a job. I got paid nearly double, right? And I rented a small room. The toilets were out on the hallway. And so I came in 54, in 57, I had $5,000 saved up. I rented kind of sort of a larger garage and bought a few used machines, $5,000, 60 years ago. You buy a small farm or you could buy a small condo, right? So anyway, I invested it in a few used machines. Out I went hustling. I went in the factories and said, "I'm very good at solving problems. If I can't solve the problems, you don't have to pay me." So after 1 month I hired somebody. After a year I had about 10 people. After 2 years, 20. And the first revolution set in. I had a German foreman called Herman. I said to him, "Herman, you're kind of acting a little strange lately. What's the matter?" Well, he said, "Frank, I wanted to talk to you anyway. I want to start my own business." Well, I said, "I can sympathize with that, So I said, "Well, maybe we could come up with something tomorrow, which might be better." So that evening I was talking to myself and I said, if that foreman's got to leave it, that would stifle my growth, not good for me. The next reason that bothered me more, if I would lose that foreman, I would have got to do the work all myself. I liked it less. The third reason was, if I hire a new foreman now, and I don't teach him, I still got to do all the work myself. And if I hire a new foreman and I teach him how business is run, after 1 year or 2 years, he will open up his own business. So anyway, the next day I said to him, "Look, why don't we open up a factory together? You own 1/3, 2/3. By the end of the year, we take pro rata, we take something out, we leave something for growth." Herman said, "You mean it?" I said, "Yes." He went to a lawyer right away, wrote it down. The guy was hustling like crazy. That was his factory. I took the next foreman, the next foreman, the next one, the next foreman. All of a sudden, the same factories, cash flow coming like crazy. Then I saw this multi-billion-dollar market out there. I said, somehow I gotta get the employees involved, right? And I transferred the company to a public company, and I put in the profit sharing, and our profits just climbed like crazy, right? Because It's an amazing thing with employees, if you give them a real tangible term that they can participate. But it's a good example, right? When you have a small business, what you should do or what you could do, huh?
That's great. Thank you. So by the way, that's my favorite question to any business owner. You know, how did you get started, right? And you really heard a little bit of how Frank got started, but each and every Keystone owner tonight has a story, right? And it's not always like that, straight up. There's some ups and downs, and those guys, a lot of the award winners are shaking their heads right now, and that's pretty magical. And you know, one of the Keystone winners, I won't say who it was, no big deal. I have over a couple hundred employees. I just thought everyone, he didn't say, I just thought everyone had that. I said, do you realize that they've identified that only about 5 people out of 1,000, 5 people out of 1,000 people can probably build a company to 50 employees. So once you get to 100, to 200, to 400, the number one Keystone winner in this room right now has over 400 employees. Like, and then you go to Frank's story, and like I say, the math for Canada, the Canadian way, it doesn't work without you guys. That's why it's so great just to be in your company and to spend time with Frank. I want to thank our sponsor, BDO Partners, Adam Crowley. You did an amazing job. Thank you so much for having us. You know, it's pretty clear that you and your firm get small medium enterprise. I already thanked Maureen, the president, but I also want to thank someone on her team as well. Anybody has to, as they call it, Queen's Park Dean Speed. Julie Ferrari, thank you for working on Dean Time. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I just also, you know, we did this event in Ottawa, Frank and I, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and Fraser Sullivan, who's now in Ottawa, but it's Peterborough boy from CIBC with Gundy, he's over there in the corner. Fraser, just stand up, put your hand up. Thank you for doing the big event in Ottawa. That was awesome. So we've got some more time. Like I said, there's some dessert there, and we've got time to mix and mingle a little bit. A lot of the Keystone winners had their photo with Frank, but if you'd like to, if you're here and you want to say hi and a quick photo with Frank afterwards, we're going to go to the whiteboard over there with the camera. We can do that. As I said, Keystone winners, we're going to be in touch with these roundtables, and again, nonpartisan, but we need a voice. And the first question Terry asked was really, really key. Business cannot avoid to work around government anymore. You can't just say, oh, that's okay. You're going to have to get more involved. And you're some of the best and brightest problem solvers this country has, and we're going to have to lean on you fast and furious in order to right the ship. And that's not a partisan thing. We just need to have your perspective as business builders and nation builders. And I like to say, and I really mean it, Lions of the North. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.